I discovered today's guest while scouring Instagram for body confident and accepting women, and Jess Megan definitely falls into this category. She uses her platform to inspire other women to accept their bodies and is an absolute delight to be following. So I did actually briefly meet her last year at Christiana's Real Catwalk as well, and I am looking forward to finding out more and talking to her today. So morning, Jess, how are you today?
Morning, I'm doing good. How are
I'm
you?
great, thank you. It's lovely to see you on here. So,
Thank you.
how's lockdown looking for you?
Oh my gosh, lockdown is such a strange period. You know, it's so interesting. I just told you that my dog would do this thing. It's like he knows. It's like he knows to annoy me. Can you go somewhere
Oh,
else, please? So yeah, it's an unusual time, isn't it? Because we're all we're not doing it, we're not being sort of called to do anything particularly major. In fact, if anything, we're being told to do the complete opposite,
yeah,
and yet we are all filled with this sort of weird sort of feeling of dread and anxiety. And I think it's because as human beings we need that productivity, and I think like it doesn't necessarily have to be anything major, but just that having that structure, or at least we're used to having structure, aren't
yeah,
we? So I've just got this constant feeling in my chest of, oh my god, am I doing enough? Am I doing, I don't have like, no one's telling me to where to be. I think that's what it is. It's that weird
yeah,
sort of, I've always been told I have to go and be here and then here, and then all of a sudden there's nothing, there's none of that. So I mean, it's strange actually, even just being asked to do podcasts and so on. I'm like, I have to speak to a human. I hope I've still got the skills. I hope I can still speak to people like I used to, because I'm just not practicing at the minute. I'm talking to my dog and he's not a great conversationalist. So very, very strange time, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, for me, because before I was doing the podcast just over the telephone, so this has forced me to be more visual because I was
uh,
craving seeing people and wanting to talk to people one to one. So, in
yeah.
some respects, it's been a good thing for me to push myself out of my comfort zone. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's that craving, just missing being around people and being busy. It's frustrating, isn't it? But
It's weird. And also I know what you mean about the FaceTime thing. It's very, it's got this kind of, there's a sort of added slight kind of bizarre anxiousness to it,
yeah,
and it's also good, but it's really good because you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And in this particular time, I think people, I mean, it's, because you're in your house, and when you're in your house, that's where you go to be with either your loved ones,
mm,
or you're by yourself. And you get used to that, and all of a sudden in your house you're now having to basically invite your entire office into your
yeah,
home, and
yeah,
they're judging your interior design, and it's like, this is where I come to be my full
yeah.
self, and I'm having to kind of bring the world in a little bit, and it feels very strange and unusual. I feel sullied and unusual, Rachel.
So, for anybody that doesn't know you, Jess, how do you describe yourself?
Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at this. So I guess I'm a curve model and influencer. So I'm a social media influencer. My focus is on body confidence, sex, and well-being. Those are my three sort of most passionate topics. And I was nominated by Cosmopolitan for health and well-being, and I've worked with numerous brands such as The Body Shop and all these fantastic sort of like brands that I very much admire. And I'm very loud, I talk a lot, and I'm very outspoken on the subject of women. So feminism's like, I guess you could say, yeah, feminism's kind of that's my forte. That's what
Yeah,
I like to talk about. I,
fabulous.
I never know what to say.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I came across you on Instagram about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, because I was searching for people that were more body confident and body accepting, because I've really tried to create my feed surrounded by people like that. And you completely just embrace your body and also encourage other women to be more accepting of themselves. And I love that about you. It's brilliant. So
Thank you
you're a
so
little ray of sunshine over on Instagram for me. Thank you.
much. That's so kind.
How
I
old
never
were you when you first started modelling?
when I started modeling. Do you know, somebody asked me this morning on my live, and I did that thing where I went 21, 22, 21, 22. I was like, which one was it? Was it just on the brink? I can't remember. I think it was in the early year of 2000, and I want to say 16. So I must have been 22. So yeah, it was, I started, I mean, do you know what? I didn't actually, people often say that the modeling world with regards to age is a little bit strange, isn't it? Because,
Yeah.
you know, young is in the modeling world is like, you know, sort of 14, 15, and
Yeah.
then, you know, I mean, well, you know, you can go even younger than that. And then you're considered sort of 21, 22 when you're started to hit your peak. But I started then, and I feel like I'm just beginning, you know, and I feel like it is changing a little bit. So yeah, like, anyway, you asked me when I started, and I
Yeah.
started at 22. I'm a very tangent type person. My
No, I
apologies.
love it. Keep going. How difficult was it when you first started? Was it what you expected it to be like, or did you find hurdles that you really struggled with?
Do you know, the way I didn't expect it to be? I didn't expect it to be as, I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot harder to break into the modeling world, being somebody who was shorter. And at the time when I started modeling, I was a sort of size 10. So, you know, even then and I was working with like more amateur photographers, and they would often sort of class me as a curve model. So I was very much of this, like, you know, I'm a curve model. And so when I got signed, I thought it would be, I was surprised at how sort of like simpler it was. I was like, oh, okay, this wasn't too bad. And then and you know, but then I sort of like, then you get on the online world and you realize actually that harshness is still out there. And that's when I put on more weight, you know, size 12, 14, became more of a genuine curve model.
Mm.
So no, it was, do you know what, it was, I mean, I mean, I think it would be dishonest to say it was really, really difficult for me. I think that I was given a great advantage in that I was at university at the time. I had a car, and I would basically I joined up on, I mean, there was obviously a lot of, like, you know, I did work for it, but
Mm.
at the time it was more of a hobby. And I think that was the key in the end. It wasn't, I'm going to be a model. It was, I'm just going to do this for fun because I quite like being taken photos of. I loved acting. So I'll just kind of do this as a side thing. And then I'll see what, you know, maybe nothing will come of it. And I'll just have a nice little portfolio of images of myself. And then I sort of it developed into a career,
Mm.
which was absolutely not what I was expecting at all. So yeah,
Right.
that's how it
What were
started.
you wanting to do before you'd kind of fallen into the modelling? What had you planned to do career-wise?
Journalism.
Right.
I was going to write. Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I've got thick dissertations worth of writing. I've got blogs, and yeah, I've got writings and folders and files that have scattered everywhere of articles that I've written. That's why I put so much, I think, into the captions on my Instagram. They're very short form,
Mm.
but I really do think that they have a huge impact on how I connect with people.
Mm.
So yeah, it would have been journalism, or it would have been like production. I really wanted to work at the BBC, and it's ironic because I have worked with them now, but just in a different capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my initial goal.
And were you always this body confident and accepting of your body from a young age, or has it something that's grown through pushing yourself out of your comfort zone through work?
It's a really interesting question, and it's one I've thought about a lot, because I think I've gone back and forth. So I know that I definitely felt shame in my body, but I think that everyone does, or every woman specifically,
Mm.
very much feels that shame, that sort of Catholic hangover that we've got of, you know, our bodies becoming sexual
Mm.
when we hit about 14 or 15. And so that, I mean, the reason I talk about that is because I do think that comes under that confidence aspect. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us hide because of the shame of, like, you know, the fact that we have breasts and hips and all this sort of thing. So
Mm.
we get a bit worried about how we show those assets off. But when so I sort of, I recall I was fat. I was definitely, like, I was a fat child. And sort of, you know, it kind of, I guess it became more shapely as I sort of hit about 15, 16. So it went from feeling shame about being fat to feeling shame about suddenly becoming sexually attractive to boys and men. But I always had this undercurrent of performer, entertainer, sort of, I really wanted to it was strange. I didn't have a lot of friends in school. In fact, I had no friends for a long time, but I still wanted to, I wanted to show myself off. I still wanted to be the sort of center of attention, and I loved being on stage, and I didn't mind that. It was just when I was off stage or when I was by myself, that's when I became, you know, a little bit more sheltered. But I used to sort of sing and act, and I loved that. And I think that plays a huge part in the way I am online now and my career. But when it comes to sort of this personal battle in my body, I definitely didn't feel shame until other people pointed it out in me.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people can relate to that. I think that we all have this remembering being children and being, you know, young and vibrant until somebody said, have you noticed your body? Have you? And then it happens again and again and again and again, and then all of a sudden it becomes like, it's all I can think about now. So I think that was what it was. And in my adult life, I've suddenly gone, what am I really like ashamed of? You know, what should I be ashamed of? It's not right. It's not fair. So yeah, no.
So obviously body acceptance is a fluid thing as well, isn't it? So I have bad days and good days, even though I am overall in a much better place than I ever have been in my younger life. What do you do on the days that you really struggle with kind of low body acceptance? What are your tools?
On those days, I suppose, on the days that I feel particularly low, I try to remember, and I think the pressure's on nowadays with regards to, you have to love your body every single day, every minute of the day, and if you don't, then you're doing it a disservice. At the end of the day, we're still unpicking some really deeply like interwoven threads, and we're still trying to kind of like figure out, you know, where we're at with our bodies. And there are some days that are just going to be complete write-offs in terms of loving your body, and that's completely fine. You don't have to stand there in front of a mirror and say, no, I love this about myself, and I love this, and I love you know, my arm fat, and I love. You don't have to do that. It's completely. Some days you can just see your body as a vessel that's carrying you through the day, and that's it. That's all it is. It's just, I'm going to get from here to here, and I'm not going to spend all this time trying to convince myself that my body's amazing, because sometimes we're just neutral. We're just, you know, and I think that pressure of, I don't particularly like the sort of terms like cellulite, you know, that kind of this over sort of this I guess it's that kind of like, I don't want to say, like, maybe not capitalism is the right word, but just that way of kind of like it sort of just glosses over the fact that we are human and we have days where we just don't feel that great about ourselves. One of my biggest things is like when I have bad skin on my bum, you know, and it's just like, or I've got like, you know, forehead spots, and I think, you know, it's annoying. I'm just like, oh, that sucks. But I think if you just admit it sucks, just today, I feel like shit today, it relieves you of that thing of, okay, I've said it now. I've not tried to deny myself the feeling of feeling like shit, because I feel like shit, and that's what you should do. It's much more cathartic doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. How important do you think it is? Because you've been working with some really inclusive fashion brands that have been really good at representing diversity. How important do you think the fashion industry is in helping women achieve this body acceptance?
So fashion is absolutely crucial, because if you're not, I mean, it's all well and good for people like me, you know, to be talking about how you know, we should feel good about ourselves, but if the fashion brands aren't delivering the clothes that these people that you know, larger sizes need in order to feel good, then it's completely useless. I can say to you all day, you should feel good about your body, but if you're not seeing that reflected in the brands that you're consuming from, and then you're thinking, well, great, but you know, at the end of the day, I want to be able to wear bright and vibrant clothes to reflect my personality. And if the only thing that's being like, you know, belted out for me is just blacks, browns, and things that hide my shape, then what the industry is telling you is that you should not be seen, or at least, you should be hiding your shape until you develop a body that is in keeping with the kind of clothes that, are bright and colorful. So it is, I mean, this is something that I've spoken about forever. And, I can't even begin to tell you how important this is. I desperately, desperately want to see brands start doing this on a level that's it's just normal.
Yeah.
You have, because it's always, maybe sort of from 8 to 6, 8 to, and a lot of the time it's 12 is still like the cutoff for even some major high street brands. But like, I want it to be normal to see 22s, 24s, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of brands say, well, it's the cost, it's the cost of the fabric and whatnot. And it's like, but there's still going to be a demand. So why would you miss out on it from a marketing perspective? Why would you want to miss out on that? It seems crazy to me. So yeah, absolutely crucial.
I mean, I know from my point of view as an older model, I love modelling lingerie and swimwear, and you very rarely see women over 40 being represented. And I know if I walk into a lingerie shop and see posters of young girls that are 21 looking fantastic, it makes you feel shit about yourself, whether you're body accepting and confident or not. To compare yourself to a younger image is really hard. And so it really frustrates me that these brands they're not moving quickly enough, in my opinion.
Do you know what? It's interesting as well that you say that, because obviously I speak from the perspective of size, but one of the sorely like kind of isolated spheres of modeling is the sort of women over even women over like 35, women over 40, women over 50, and it's just this consistent idea that it's almost like we're going to pretend that they don't exist. And you know what? I can maintain that the reason is because if you keep women trying to be in their 20s their whole life, you're going to consistently have a very hungry consumer base who are constantly going to be eating up anything you give them in terms of like skincare and beauty. And if you like, women are just expected to be in their 20s their entire lives, even when they're 14.
Yes.
They're expected to be older. And then when you're 30 and above, you have to try and be 20. You have to be in your 20s again. I mean, I'm in my 20s now, and people have already started commenting on the fact that I'm approaching 30.
Right.
And and it's that thing of like, and it's so annoying, because again, it's what I was saying earlier about I wasn't thinking about it until people started telling me about it all the time. And it's like, I wasn't even really paying attention to it until you pointed it out. And now it's on my mind. It's very frustrating. But I completely agree with you. It's sorely ignored, the fact that we don't have women over 40 in more campaigns, particularly when, like, I'm sorry, but like, again, from a marketing perspective, why wouldn't you want to use models that look like the people that are buying your stuff?
Well, hopefully things will start to change. You never know, this lockdown might change. I think it will change attitudes in the fashion industry. I think it will have to. I think they've been forced to maybe start re-looking at things. So we shall see.
I really hope so. Maybe they're forced to look at their consumer base a bit more. And actually sort of like trying to. I think you're absolutely right. I would love to see older models. I really would. I see the same sort of thing. You see the same stuff all the time, don't you? So you just to see a bright and colourful, like, variable base of models in advertising would be a dream. It would be amazing.
Have you got a dream brand that you've not yet worked with that you would love to work with?
My dream brand, actually, I've worked with my dream brand. My dream brand was The Body Shop. Yeah, my dream brand was The Body Shop. They were the ones that I wanted. Like, I've wanted them for about 2 years now. I'd really like to work with Fenty Beauty or Savage. That would be amazing. I mean, yeah, it's weird because whenever I think of my dream brand, I think The Body Shop, and now I have a great like rapport with them. So that's amazing for me. I remember, actually, I mentioned it on a few podcasts. In fact, now that you've asked me that, That's the first time I've been asked that in a long time. And I remember when I said on a podcast like 3 years ago, I said, oh, the Body Shop was my dream brand. And I got them in 2018 for the first time. And ever since then, I've been working with them pretty regularly. So, because the reason I love them so much is because they are one of the biggest brands in the world. And yet they are very ethically focused and have managed to prove, and they've proven that you don't have to be, like ethically sort of like, you don't have to be ethically ignorant in order to be like massive. You just, if you stick to your guns and you really focus on what matters, as for them it's the cruelty free and, you know, the natural kind of products and all of this, you can still be a brilliant brand. So I'm really proud to work with them.
And you use your social media platform in such a positive way. How difficult is it putting yourself out there, though? Because you have got a lot of followers, and, you know, there are lots of positive people out there, but there's also a lot of negativity, isn't there? That's really hard to deal with. How do you cope with that?
Well, I'm a human being, and that's exactly the kind of approach I take to everyone that brings criticism to me. I say, do you expect these influencers or whoever's got a platform, do you expect them to fall out of the sky completely perfectly formed? Because nobody is. And if somebody comes to me and points something out that they feel like I've done wrong, and I then get to assess that, and I think, right, do I agree with this person? First of all, how have they brought it to me? Have they brought it to me screaming and kicking? Because that's very off-putting. But if they've come to me with a fair point, I'll always take it on board and I'll always consider it, but it doesn't always mean I'm going to agree with it. I had some criticism last night on the post that I posted, and I said on that post, on that comment, I said, I understand your frustration, but just because you disagree with it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be said. It doesn't mean that what I've said has absolutely no value in the world just because you personally don't find value in it. So, and a lot of the time, I mean, the criticism can also be incredibly sort of like, I mean, whenever it comes to criticism, I often think of the kind of constructive-ish criticism, but then there's obviously also the bullying and there's the sexual harassment, which is completely different and deserves to be dealt with in a completely different way. And I often think, I personally would never go onto somebody's post and say horrible things about them. So I honestly do believe, and I don't think I ever have done that in my life. So I do believe that this person has to be going through something of their own. And often when you challenge them and you say, what's the problem? They actually do open up and they unravel like a ball of string and go, I didn't really think you were going to reply. I just feel really bad. I've had a bad day. And then you have I don't do this very often, but you have a discussion with them and you actually find out they're just not in a good place. And you send them away with a slightly different perspective, which is always a great victory for me. But it's just humans talking to humans, and unfortunately when we're on our laptops and computers, it's basically it's the equivalent of having a couple of beers at the pub. Your inhibitions are slightly lowered and you just say what you want to say, and you just got to take it with a pinch of salt. People they're very strange and unusual, especially at this time. It's become very odd, isn't it?
But what about sexual harassment? Because I'm 50 and I get, constant dick pics sent in my Instagram box, and I hate it, but I don't do anything about it. I block them and then move on. But I've got two daughters, 20-year-olds, and if someone was doing it to them, I would be absolutely livid and I'd be mortified. So why are we all being so quite accepting of it? This just happens and Instagram don't really do anything about it. How can we change that?
It's absolutely fucking unbelievable that this has become the norm, and I'm so angry because it's harassment and it is abuse. And what the problem is that the reason Instagram and all these major social media platforms don't want to face up to it and deal with it is because it is insane. It's an avalanche. They can't deal with the millions and millions of dick pics and harassment that quite frankly is, like when it comes to sexual harassment, male to female, And so what they do is they go, we can't like sort of, we'll delete the odd thing here and there. But what we have to do, and this is what I try and do with my platform, is we actually have to change the way men see women as a whole, not just online, but as a whole, because we are quite literally, they see us as wholes. They look at us and they just think of us as these sort of 2D images that are there, that are popped up. They're there for their pleasure, and they just kind of bombard. They don't have any second thoughts about it. And I think I wrote about this yesterday on my story. I said we have to stop seeing women as these cookie cutter cardboard people that have absolutely no hopes, no dreams. They just see, like, for a lot of men, not all men, but for the sexual harassment, the ones sexually harassed online, they do just generally see women and they just think of them as, oh, all of this personality that they've got is getting in the way of the fact that I just want to see them as a vagina. I just want to see them as a sexual object. So for me, I take a absolutely balls out approach to trying to educate and like people into, particularly men, because I know there are men that follow me, and I want them to actually pick something up from me and learn. And if we all did this and we all made it absolutely unacceptable, the way I see it is, if somebody sexually harasses you, or if somebody touches you without your consent, see it as though they've just punched you in the face. They've just punched you in the face. That's how I see it. I don't see it as, oh, it's just, they're just men, how it is. Because that is still the attitude of it. They can, oh, well, what, bless them. That's just who they are. No, it's absolutely not. They are human beings. They use iPads. They can use phones. Therefore, they know not to sexually harass. So that's how I see it. If they're going to do that, to me, it's the same as being punched in the face, and I will treat it as such. I will kick up a massive fuss, because I think that's the only way we can deal with it, is by making it so shameful that they won't touch it. They won't do it. And that's my, it's infuriating. But like you say, you've got 2 daughters, my mum gets so angry, to know nothing. But at the same time, I say to her, look, like, I am way angrier than you could ever be. And I will, I genuinely, that's one of the marks I want to leave on this world, is that I leave the women in it feeling a little bit more like they can stand up for themselves, because it's unacceptable. And we need to be saying that more and more, like, do not accept that. It's not right.
I love that you use your voice on your platform to highlight issues like this, because it's so important. It's so important for younger women to have role models like you to be able to follow and take something from. It's really important. And I love the Channel 4 Bring Back the Bush documentary you took in. So tell me a little bit more about that, because that was 6 weeks.
What, 6 weeks ago, or 6 weeks in?
No, the challenge, a 6 week challenge.
It was, do you know what? It wasn't actually, in the end, it was probably a total of about 7 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to know? It was such
so you weren't allowed to shave or use hair removal products for that length of time.
So, no, sorry.
How did that make you feel about your body? Because it is challenging. It's challenging yourself again, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? The real challenge wasn't her growing the hair. It was the revealing of the hair at the end. And then, even then, I suppose some people did say to me, they said, well, I watched the program. It couldn't really see anything, so I didn't really get the point. And I said, well, they chose a photo that the shadow was slightly sort of maybe kind of went over it slightly, so you couldn't see as much as I thought you could see. But it was, the thing about it was that, I mean, it's interesting when you grow your hair back and you've been shaving your whole life, because it comes back patchy. It doesn't actually come back as this gorgeous sort of 70s bush as you imagine it's going to be. It comes back as this kind of slightly patchy, a bit sort of like undergrown kind of mess. And so the thing that I noticed, I mean, is actually the hair growth that grows out onto your legs. It's not just, obviously it's not just sort of pubic. It's what goes out onto your legs, isn't it? So that's what they talk about in bikini wax, is to make sure that they get all of that off. It was a really it was a really gorgeous and interesting process. Obviously, seeing how the production of a program like that is made is always a real fascinating thing. And it also sort of gave me that opportunity to talk out about women's bodies in a way that I had never done so before, which was really great. And I mean, it wasn't a particularly galling process. I think because I have gotten so much of my body out online before, it didn't feel that weird. I think the other participants in the program, maybe bar one, was, you know, even they were quite sort of, you know, they were a little bit nervous. There was one girl who obviously dropped out. I'm not sure if you, there was one girl who dropped out. She was, I mean, that was sad because I completely understood where she was coming from. It was a real, you know, we went from sort of, we were going to have a party on the beach, and all of a sudden we were having a photo shoot getting our actual pubic hair out, which was a complete switcheroo from the initial plan. So I completely understood why she dropped out, because she wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But the way it was sort of framed was as this kind of like, oh, you know, she wasn't brave enough. And it's like, it's an incredibly intimidating thing, because to do that, and it, you know, because I was seeing it in the context of, I want women to not feel ashamed of their hair. I mean, for fuck's sake, men get their hair out all the time, and they've got hairy armpits, and we're not allowed to have them. We have to be completely shaven. I mean, what is that? So, you know, like, but she was seeing it from the perspective of a kind of sexual thing, you know, and I completely understand, you know, you don't, if that's not what you expect to or want to do, then that's completely down to her. So yeah, it was a really interesting process, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, as for the hair growth bit, it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't this kind of like tumbling kind of like thing. It wasn't like, wow, it was just like, oh, it's all right, I guess. It didn't grow out as much as I would have hoped. I was hoping for something a bit more fluffy, but it wasn't like that at all.
But what about work during that time? Because I'm sure I read somewhere that you actually got asked to send a photograph of your pubes whilst you were doing a casting.
Yeah, I was. There was a swimwear company who, not a big one, but they wanted to shoot with me, and I said to my agent, look, I've been doing this challenge. They knew that I've been doing this challenge. So I can't get rid of my hair, but I'm willing to sort of, you know, work with them. But you know, I'm just letting them know that there is hair. And he said, okay, well, I'll give you the email to the person, which is strange in the first place. But he said, you know, just, you know, have a chat with them. And they said, can we see what the growth is like? And I was like, okay. I was in the back of a bus on the way back from Gatwick Airport. I'd just come back from shooting a campaign. So I was a bit like, rather than going, no, I went, yeah, okay. And, you know, because I was in that mindset of, I'm going to get this out on TV. So who the hell anyway? So I sent it off, and I just didn't hear anything back. And then I was like, okay, so there's just pictures of my pubic area out there somewhere that someone has now. That's excellent. And then obviously I lost some jobs as a result. You know, they were in the pipeline to be confirmed until they sort of said, look, we can't really do this with you right now if you've got this hair situation, but you know, maybe you know, we'll come back. And you know what that means as models, don't we? So that was the one frustrating part of the process, but after having actually done the program, it was completely worth it. It was just, at the time I was like, oh, because you know how it is, you know, when you're a freelancer or when you're a model, money is very important. So it's kind of like, oh. So yeah, that was frustrating, but you know.
Would you like to do more TV documentary style work?
Oh God, yes. Absolutely. I love television. I love film. I love videography, all of it. I'm absolutely bloody obsessed. I think because I'm so chatty, and I think because a lot more of my personality comes out on camera, and I know I go off on tangents, and I know I'm a bit, you know, of a scatterbrain, but it's just having that free flowing conversations much nicer. And it's what I would have, I mean, the journalism bit and production, TV and production. And I thought to myself, you know, how can I would love to do more presenting work. So I really enjoy that. My only issue is when I get a little bit, you know, sometimes I get a bit stage fright, but other than that, absolutely adore it. Love to do more of it. Yeah.
So how ambitious are you for the future? Do you have like a bucket list for the next 10 years where you'd like to get to, or do you just go with
Oh,
the flow?
do you know what? I'm sort of half and half. So I think it's always good to have. I think it's always good to write down what you want to do, right? So you basically you take the thing you envision, you write it down, and then you kind of come back to it every so often, just to remind yourself of where you're going. For me, I would love to be sort of doing, as I said, presenting work, and I'd love to be doing more television focused stuff. I might not end up on this side of the camera. I might one day endeavor to be on the other side, because I really, it's again, it's the thing that I always kind of wanted to do, or I wanted to sort of write. So yeah, at the moment for me, it's mostly a process of just trying to write down everything. And I would say this to anyone: write it down. Even the most outlandish thing you can think of, like maybe it's a completely different trajectory. Maybe you are working in a supermarket, but you've always wanted to work for the BBC on, I don't know, doing like Blue Planet or something. That is a BBC program, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
I was like, is it? It is the BBC. But maybe that's something that you've always wanted to do. Maybe it's just like, oh my God, like, it's a pipe dream. Not necessarily. You know, I've known people who have literally just like gone on courses, got what they need, got got an internship, you know, maybe in their sort of like mid-30s, 40s, and they've ended up doing the dream job. It's never too late. And I don't know, because I think I have to tell myself that a lot, because I get very anxious, and I do get very like, oh my God, is it too late? Am I doing the right thing? Where am I going? You know, and I think we have all built this idea in our heads that we can create a life where the path will always be able to see the path ahead. But even if you were in a desert, the curvature of the earth would still take it away from you. You still wouldn't be able to see the end. So ultimately, like, there's only so much planning we can do. So I think we all expect our life to be a series of, like, you know, steps, but actually it's a free fall. And every so often we might catch something that we wanted to do, but then, oh my God, we're doing this. Just take it all in your stride. So that's what I hope to do, but I know that it's going to be twinged with anxiety every now and then about what I'm doing, but that's normal.
But that's what keeps it exciting and fresh as well, isn't it? I think having that anxiety, because I suffer with anxiety a bit about stuff, and question myself about what I'm doing, especially because I've come into it later in life. I think, God, you know, am I crazy doing this? But I find I do a mood board every year. At the beginning of the year, I do a mood board of pictures of all the different things that I would dream of doing. And if I get one of those things throughout the year, then that's fantastic. And if I don't, then it's been nice to have that up in my wall for a year, and then I'll do another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. I love lists. Sometimes I'll write a list just for the hell of writing a list and then not get any of it done. But, you know, it's just that idea of like, just giving you some, especially now in this current period of time, it's nice to have that bit of structure. And don't beat yourself up if, you know, you haven't made all 3 of those websites you planned on making in a day. I mean, that's currently where I'm at. I'm just like, oh my God, I got to get through the day. And it's like, you know, what did you do today? Oh my God, I don't know what I did. I don't think I did anything that was worth it. Oh my God. So it's just like, don't beat yourself up, but just try and have the goal, right? Try and keep the goal in mind, and just work towards it. And then eventually a year goes by and you look and you go, oh, I actually did those things. I completely forgot. Or maybe you didn't go to Japan, but you went to, I don't know, Bali instead or something. It's like, you know what I mean? It's still an experience. So don't beat yourself up if you don't stick to the absolute, like, you know, the absolute letter.
Right, my last 3 questions I ask all my guests. So the first one, what song always motivates you? Do you have a favourite?
Oh my goodness. You know, I actually had to write it down because, you know, I've had podcasts before where people have like asked me these sorts of things, and I've always gone, I don't know really, I'll just and I think, I wish I'd given a better answer. So I did actually write them down. I hope, because I can't, there they are. So do you know what? Like, recently I've been listening to, you know, Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that a gorgeous song?
Yeah, really.
I can't help it. I know a lot of people would go, it's lame, but I don't care. It's such a gorgeous song. It's so just like uplifting and it's nostalgic whilst also being like, I miss my friends. That's right now, that's what I'm feeling. It's like I miss my friends and I can't wait to see them again. That's the vibe of that song. And it's a great running track as well. Anything that can get me out and running is a great track for me.
And what about a book that's inspired you? Do you read much?
I do read, yes. I unfortunately I don't read as much as I should read. I used to be one of those obsessive readers. You know, you could try and have a conversation with me. I wouldn't be like this. I'd be like this. You know, I just what? Oh, back to my book. So yes, I do read a lot, but not as much as I wish I did. So at the moment, I'm reading Matt Haig. You know, Notes on a Nervous Planet, or what's the other one? He's How to Stay Alive. He's just just a brilliant writer. Really, I think what inspires me about him is mostly the way he writes. It's very engaging, and he writes about very big topics like anxiety, depression, suicide, and, you know, consumerism and the planet and the human race in such simplistic terms. And it's so engaging and yet it's so informative. I think that's what inspires me about him and his writing. And it also just kind of gives you that sense of calm that actually, as a human race, we are all a bit weird and a bit flawed and awkward, and that's absolutely fine. That's what I like about him, and that's what inspires me most about his writing.
Right, I should look that one up. And what about who inspires you?
Oh my goodness. So I thought about like who inspires me, and I thought, well, the list is too long. So what I tried to do is I tried to like cut it down to who inspires me like today. And that could go on for like a week. You know, obviously people often say like my mum does inspire me. She's amazing. And she's inspiring me today because she's off, you know, helping the patients, you know, and she's a mental health nurse. She's doing a lot of work right now. But today, my dog, because he is super chill. I'm a very like anxious, flitty person. He's a very chill old man, and he just hangs around the house. And he's like, if he was a person, he'd be out there like with a cocktail and some sunglasses on, just like taking it as it is. So I'm inspired by that level of like chill. And the other one is completely on the other end of the spectrum. It's the guy called Alain de Botton, who I've become obsessed with recently. He's a great English philosopher and author, and his books are all about like the school of life and making mistakes, and you know, emphasizing like philosophy's relevance to everyday life. And I know that sounds so like sort of arsey and stupid, but honestly, I really recommend anybody looking up his work. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now, or if you're feeling a bit scared and, you know, you're not quite sure if you've gone the right way in life, listen to him, because he just puts everything into perspective, and he's absolutely fascinating. So today it's my mum, my dog, and Alain de Botton.
Perfect list. Well, thank you. And you inspire me, and I know you inspire loads of women. So keep up all the good work.
Me as well, because you're honestly like, I think when I look back over my career, I focus so much on size, and there is, as you have pointed out numerous times on social media and when I've met you, that there is this sorely like missed like sort of arena of modeling, and that is women, you know, over 40, and like that in itself inspires me, because I don't know how much attention I would have paid to it prior until you brought it up. So that is in itself like of such value to me, because I think when you're in your 20s, your horizon is a little bit kind of just like,
yeah, completely. You don't worry about being 40.
We're all like that, you know. We all see things from our own horizons until someone goes, have you considered this? And you go, oh, do you know what, I haven't considered that before. So honestly, like you too, like it's a real, you know, it's people like you that are adding that, you know, another surface to the prism of this modeling world, and it's so exciting to have people like you in it. So thank you as well.
Well, thank you. Well, if we all keep using our voices, hopefully we'll create a bigger change.
Exactly. It's an exciting time, you know. Let's do this. We can do it as well. It's going to be great.
Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing what you get up to next when all this is over.
Oh my gosh, yeah, me too. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll just become a full-time slug and just live on.
Take care of yourself. Keep well.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.